The 8BitDo Arcade Stick Switch Edition is a reasonably priced arcade stick that offers both wired and wireless play. Right off the bat, I'm going to say I enjoy fighting games on occasion, but I'm far from an aficionado. Primarily, I bought the 8BitDo to enhance my experiences and enjoyment with retro games, run-and-guns, and beat-em-ups. In 2025, is the 8BitDo Arcade Stick worth picking up for those of us not solely inclined to hammer out fighting games endlessly? And beyond that, is it worth upgrading the components? Let's find out. First up, let's cover current compatibility. The 8BitDo Arcade Stick Switch Edition runs for $90 when not on sale and obviously works with the OG Nintendo Switch. Switch 2 compatibility isn't ready out of the box, but a quick firmware update, which requires a computer or laptop USB connection, gets you up and running with complete wired and wireless functionality. You have the choice of connecting via Bluetooth or wirelessly through an included dongle. Bluetooth setup was easy and works just fine. Note, have your arcade stick set to S mode. Pairing doesn't seem to connect in X mode. The 8BitDo Arcade Stick Switch Edition is not just limited to the Nintendo Switch though, as it's fully compatible with the Analogue Pocket Dock. That gigantic collection of Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games that you own is now eligible for wireless arcade stick controls. The retro compatibility doesn't stop there, as 8BitDo makes wireless controllers for the SNES and Sega Genesis, or Super NT and Mega SG. It should come as no surprise that the arcade stick works for those too. There's a caveat though. The arcade stick only connects via a separate Bluetooth dongle, which is available for purchase for the Genesis for $20 and the Super Nintendo for $25. One of the biggest selling points of the stick to me was its wireless and Bluetooth compatibility. I'm a casual enough player that a responsive controller suffices, and the 8BitDo more than meets that requirement. At no point have I experienced a noticeable input delay, so that's a huge win in my book for those of us who are a bit too far from the TV for a wired stick. The hardware is only there to bring us to the fun though. For me, attempting to play through the Contra collection on the Switch 2 using the Joy-Cons drove home how frustrating the experience was. Quick directional firing, jumping, movement, and transitions to prone are necessary, and the Joy-Cons seem to have a mind of their own at times. I used the arcade stick through all of the games of my run and gun video, which includes Metal Slug, Contra 3, Shock Troopers, and others. I also used the arcade stick to play through CT Special Forces for the Game Boy Advance, and most of the games in my Marvel beat-em-up video. Run and guns and beat-em-ups feel just right using an arcade stick. For me, there's just something natural about using the arcade stick. Controls felt responsive, and the immersion level for me increased. Out-of-the-box accuracy felt good as well, giving me fewer reasons to blame the Joy-Cons for my repeated mission failures. So brace that ego of yours before going in. There are downsides for some games though. Games that require button combinations or shoulder button use may not be as well suited to the greater spacing of the arcade stick, unless you have long fingers and not tiny, ladylike digits like myself. Additionally, moves that require a double tap to dash or retreat were slightly more difficult to pull off because of the longer travel of the stick. The 8BitDo Arcade Stick also comes ready-made for modification. I consider myself more of a casual player, and am certainly not of the competitive set, but I figured I'd give modification a go to see how it impacted the feel on run and guns and beat-em-ups. For upgrades, I ordered a Sumitsu joystick in bubble top and an octagon restrictor plate to replace the standard square plate. I also ordered Sanwa Denshi silent push buttons to see if the buttons felt better and were quieter. I prefer a game soundtrack over the click-clack sounds of the button presses. The total cost of the upgrade parts was about $70. Following Briar Rabbit's very helpful how-to video, I was able to take apart my 8BitDo arcade stick, place in replacement parts, and get the whole thing back together. The whole process took about 45 minutes, but I wasn't rushing. Upon playing Marvel Cosmic Invasion, Contra 3 Alien Wars, Code of Princess, and Terminator 2D, the controls felt noticeably tighter. I can't really attest to it being solely the joystick upgrade or just changing over the restrictor plate to an octagonal setup though. The Sanwa Denshi silent push buttons aren't silent, but they're noticeably quieter, like immediately. Equipment testing was not necessary to realize that these buttons were an upgrade, but just in case, I did run one. The device as a whole is a solidly tighter unit now, with responsive game controls and a great feel. The upgraded components definitely are noticed and improve upon an already solid experience. Nostalgia could play a part here, but playing games with an arcade joystick just feels right and brings me back to those simpler times under the neon glow of an arcade cabinet marquee. The 8BitDo arcade stick out of the box felt very nice and assisted with transporting me back to those times, and it did so at an affordable price. If you want to level up the 8BitDo, you can upgrade the parts, but that certainly isn't essential for enjoyment. And if you're like me and are playing for the experience and not competitively, it's an easy purchase. In fact, it's now my go-to controller now for any run and gun or beat 'em up. Happy gaming, everyone!